for over 2 years now, and Connie's amazing. And so I am so excited for you guys to all hear about how amazing she is. She is going to give us so many things that I feel like a lot of us, Connie's like, what? A lot of us can learn from. And I'll get to that. Just some of the things, but one of the things I do just want to start off by telling you is that our conference that we do every year, our annual Brightest in Utah conference, this year Connie is the co-chair, which means that next year in 2025 Connie will be the chair. She will be in charge of the conference. And so this is a great way to get to know her and to meet her, because she's going to be a very integral part of the conference for the next 2 years. So okay. Hi, Connie. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am great. It's
Good.
been a good day.
We're going to start off by showing a video that our sweet friend Vanessa Knuckles put together, and it's a YouTube. It will be on the YouTube thing as well. But this video just shows a little bit of Connie's story, and so I'm gonna share my. Oh, wait, Beth is gonna play that for us, right? Okay, that's right. I forgot. I don't have control. Okay, so here we go. Okay. Um, Thank you, Beth, for sharing that with us. And thank you, Vanessa Knuckles, if you're on here, for creating that. And Connie, just thank you for being a part of our community. And I loved watching that. I know that you wanted, well, I don't know if it's a big deal, but I'm just going to point out that that first picture of you there was at your after photo. So like the photos were kind of out of order, if you're thinking before and after, but that first photo of her was her now, like after BLE photo. And you've been in BLE for a long time. So and another thing I just want to point out before we get into this, you guys that watched that, you might have noticed that there was a lot of missionary photos in there with her, with Connie and her husband. And Connie will tell us about that. Um, and I just want to tell you guys, I'll be quiet and let Connie take the stage, but Connie carries the spirit with her. She's got a deep testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and she has a heart of gold and just serves all the time with all her heart. And I hope that you guys can feel the spirit as we talk today. And okay, Connie, so what I want to start out with is just tell us about yourself, and then after that, just in general, who is Connie Lancaster? We'll start there, and then we'll talk about your BLE story. But let's just, who are you, Connie? Tell us about yourself.
Thank you. So I live in Afton, Wyoming. Many people hear it as Star Valley, but Star Valley has several little towns within it. And I've lived here all of my life, other than going to school for a couple of years. I went to, oh, sorry, Alexa, stop. um, I went to BYU and I worked in Salt Lake for a little bit. So anyway, and then back to Star Valley. I have 6 children, 2 of which are adopted. They came to us in foster care. at the ages of 2 and 3, and we were only supposed to have them for 3 months, and they ended up being our forever kids. And I now have 16 grandchildren. The last was born 2 weeks ago and could use prayers. He is in Primary Children's Hospital and needs heart surgery. And so I am now tending my 17-month-old, his brother, and we're getting used to having a little one around the house all the time. So my husband went downstairs with the noise while we did this little video. I've been a health coach, and that's been about 15 years. And I've absolutely loved it. Taught clients in my home, taught classes in my home. And all of that came about because of my own health journey. But that's a little bit about me.
Okay, so that kind of led into Bright Lane Eating a little bit, which I would love to hear about. Really quick though, before we go into that, I am just curious. So your two adopted kids, have they been sealed to you?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sure you've told us this. Our Gideon Games group is amazing, and we have, we talk about everything, and we have really wonderful gospel discussions. And you've told us the story of those wonderful children, but I just couldn't remember if you'd ever talked about them being sealed to you. And also, I just want to say that those little ones, this little boy that's with you right now, he's Benjamin, and his brother is Joseph, and I love that. How cool are those two names? So keep Joseph in your prayers. That's the little one with the heart surgery. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's a lot going on. But Connie's been um, playing, doing a lot as grandma right now, which is awesome. So, all right. So tell us, Connie. So I want to know about your health coaching and how that relates to Bright Line Eating, how you found Bright Line Eating, all of that. Tell us your Bright Line Eating story.
Okay. So starting out, I have known forever, you guys, that I have been addicted to sugar. I mean, as a little kid, I would sneak in my mom's pantry and get that NMF. I'm not going to say what kind, but just it didn't really matter what kind. I would just hide and eat it. And as a kid, I could get away with it. I wasn't heavy, and I just was, the cravings were so strong. And then when I hit about 17, 18, I became anorexic. I lost about, well, I only started at 125 pounds, but I lost to 98 pounds. And I'm 5'5". And I was that way for a year. And when I started to gain weight, I just hated it. I hated it. And I have had an unhealthy relationship with food. I think the anorexia led me to binging and just not being happy around food, always guilty or analyzing or counting calories or whatever, right? So then I hired a personal trainer, and from there, I got feeling so good and healthy that I wanted to learn more, which led me to the coaching certificate. And that took me about a year and a half. And I loved it so much. I just loved it. And it helped me be healthier, eating healthier foods and making better choices and teaching others. And I would take people to the grocery store and do tours, shop the perimeter of the store. Don't go to the center. Would look at labels, and I'd teach them how to read, where, don't look at the front where it says whatever, all the advertisement. You think that it's healthy, and then you look at the ingredients list and it's just not. The sugar might be number one or number two, which means that's what's mostly in that box or that can. So anyway, that was fun. And then in 2016, I mean, I've always had this nagging chatter, of food. And in 2016, I must have seen an advertisement online. I really don't know if I got an email or if it was a Facebook ad. I don't know, but I saw an advertisement for Bright Lane Eating. And that was when boot camp was almost $1,000. And I just thought the peace that she talked about, the food freedom, I didn't have a lot to lose, but it called to me, that food freedom. And so I enrolled thinking, well, I did. I wrote it off my business expenses because I thought I can teach others. I mean, I did that with a lot of programs. I would learn and then I'd teach my clients, and um, that's what happened with Bright Line Eating. And I lost the weight I wanted to, which was about 15 pounds in the boot camp. And as I went on, I lost a little bit more just because that happens, you know. Um, anyway, I loved Bright Line Eating, but then I realized I can't teach somebody else's program and make money. And so it kind of led me away from coaching that and the missions. I mean, it kind of happened close to the same time. So I haven't done much coaching. I did teach um, a group about Bright Line Eating, and they had a couple of them had phenomenal success. And it's just fun to have those connections. But anyway,
So
yeah.
really quick, where did you get your coaching certification through? What program was that?
Institute for Integrative Nutrition out of New York.
Okay. And so they taught you like how to be a coach, but also just healthy habits
We
kind of thing,
had
healthy eating.
we had all kinds of different modalities taught to us with the idea that everybody is different and each person needs to find what works best for them. And so, but in general, it's always get the greens in first, you know, kind of crowd out the bad foods. And yeah,
Get the greens like
green,
GREE,
yes,
like okay,
green,
not grain,
no,
green.
greens,
Okay. So
yeah,
vegetables and things.
vegetables,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So then when you found Bright Line Eating, you started to just naturally coach people about Bright Line Eating because you just loved it so much and that's just kind of what was going on. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I didn't do individual coaching with Bright Line Eating or anything, but it was just starting to phase where the coaching was kind of phasing out of my life, and I kept thinking I would go back to it after missions, but um, now I guide people. I don't make money doing it. I just yeah, it's a
I
different
bet
area.
with your coaching experience, you're an awesome guide. True. I mean, even also with your BLE experience, but you just have that different experience. You've been trained as a coach too. And yeah, Connie, how many people are you guiding right now? How do you work your guiding program?
I have four right now, and I haven't been doing it for very long. I think when did I start? November, maybe October. But it has helped me be stronger. And it's only been, well, maybe, I guess I started guiding myself the end of November, and I reached out for my first guide um, about October. And I knew that I was really struggling mentally. And if I had that accountability piece, that is just all it takes sometimes
Hmm.
to
It's
get the
true.
program really strong. So,
Yeah. So you doing Bright Line Eating, as long as you have, um, you just told us like you struggle too. And you have this history of being a coach, learning how to eat healthy that way, and you still struggle. So you're showing us that you're human, that it happens. And when you struggle, you reach out, right? Do you want to talk to us about, well, first, and maybe this will be related, maybe this will lead into it, but you mentioned the mission. So I'm sure a lot of people are curious about that. I want to hear, I already know some of this, but I'll just say this. I want to hear the details of what mission, what kind of mission you're talking about, what was that, and how that might have affected your Bright Line Eating program and what you did. There's a lot we could talk about with this, Connie. But yeah, go ahead and talk to
just
us.
scratch the surface. So, like I said, I was coaching really strongly, had a great program going. And then my son, who is my youngest, and he's a little bit learning disabled, he got called on a service mission. And at that time, service missions were a little different. And they didn't work in community organizations like they do now. And we live in kind of a small area with not a lot going on with needs for the church. And so he got called to serve in Logan, Utah. And service missionaries have to live with family, and so we moved with him, which was all part of, we worked with those in charge on this because we had a place to live in Logan. We had a townhouse there, and it was great. So we were there with him for 2 years. I was great with my program, my Bright Line Eating program. We came home, and a month before he was released, we got called to be service mission leaders, which service mission leaders were called while he was on his mission, just a little bit after he started. And it made such a big difference where it was more like a real mission to these kids, and they got to be with other missionaries and have all these gatherings and conferences and etc. Well, anyway, we would support him in a lot of those things. And when we got called in 2020 to be service mission leaders, and they divided a mission to create hours, and we had 2 missionaries to begin. And we just thought, okay, we know that we are here to build a foundation of a great work. And so we went to work, and we spoke every Sunday in a different sacrament meeting. We had 80 wards in our mission, 70, yeah, between 70 and 80. And we would speak and teach people about service missions and service missionaries. And as our mission grew, we would have the missionaries speak, and we probably had, I think we had 50 missionaries go through by the time we were finished, starting with 2. And we had several of them stay overnight with us, and I was feeding them all the time. And I did great for about a year and a half into our 3-year mission. And then all of a sudden I was like, there was no time to take care of me. And you guys, it doesn't work. It's like there's got to be time. I think about young moms and just the busy. I was always feeding these missionaries and planning the next activity and getting up early with phone calls and texts and Sister Lancaster, la 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 la, there was always something. And my habit stacks started to slide, and I just wasn't feeding me with things I needed. And I just kept thinking, well, I would pray about it. Honestly, I would pray hard about it. And the Lord said, you know what? These kids, these kids are the most important. I wasn't off the wall crazy with my food. I wasn't. I just didn't feel as happy as I wanted to be. And I knew that those kids were the most important. And I let that be the most important. But I'll tell you what, when the mission ended, it was one of the first things I wanted to do. Get my habit stacks back in line, food prep. I did a lot of food prep, but it wasn't necessarily for me before. It feels so good, and I thought, how do I balance that? How would I tell somebody else to balance that? And I got dear sweet Margaret as my guide. I put a post in the general Bright Line Eating group page, whatever, and she answered, and it just helped me immensely. And then I thought, okay, Margaret, I think I'm good. After the new year, I'm going to be okay on my own. And she said, that's great. And then this happened with my little grandbaby. And I was up all night with this 17-month-old Benjamin and worried about the little baby. And I just thought, I can feel my own space being invaded again and not having time to prep. And I've got to reach out. So I did. I reached out to Margaret again. And I didn't have any wonky before. I had wonky thoughts, but I didn't break any lines. And I just said, are you available still? And she said yes. So Yeah, that support is big and taking care of yourself is big. And I think sometimes having a guide just to talk things through. How can I do this? When can I do this? And I've been able to do that with some of those that I guide. I love it. I love it when they call me in the middle of the day, just out of the blue, with a
And you do. Yeah.
SOS, a help, you know.
Connie, you said so many things there that you're just sharing your story, but so many things that I think are lessons for us. One, not really related to Bright Line Eating, but just your whole story with your service mission. And you have taught me a lot about service missions and service missionaries, and what a wonderful thing that is for maybe our sons and daughters that might end up doing a service mission. It's not like, what's the word? Um,
Irregular.
yeah, it's not like they don't have to be afraid of it. It's not like
Yeah.
weird or not the same, not like a real mission. No, it very much is. And Beth put in the chat that you called yourself mission leaders, but that basically means that you were mission presidents of your service mission, correct? And
Yes.
you guys covered a really large area there. And Connie was in our Gideon Games group while they were service missionary or on that mission, and would tell us so many stories. And I knew how much you loved those missionaries, and I know how hard it was for you to, just like it is with a lot of callings when it's over, but to let go of that calling. Although it was a relief at the same time too. But the one related to Bright Line Eating now, the one thing that I want to touch on is how you were frustrated or sad or disappointed or whatever that your program, your Bright Line Eating program, wasn't as strong, during times of your mission as maybe it was before, and it was hard. And you prayed about it, and the Spirit told you basically that that wasn't what was important at that time. And I love that you said that, because there's a couple things that we could touch on there. Number one, trust the Spirit. God knows us better than anybody, and he'll come. If right now is not the time will come. Just keep your foot in the in the Bright Line Eating water in some way, right? Because you were still really active in our Gideon Games group. You were still active in this Facebook group. You were, and you, like you said, you weren't like off the rails. You just couldn't, you weren't in a position where you could fully focus on it and take care of yourself in that way. And the Lord needed you at that time to take care of his missionaries.
You
And
know, I
yeah,
think that I am a personality that I want to be perfect. And if I don't have 100%, I just feel like I'm not doing it. And that was something I think that the Lord was saying, relax, relax on that, you know. And I
it's
have
okay.
friends in Bright Line Eating who are like, I'm too focused on the food. I don't like this. My family doesn't like this. And so we do kind of have to think about that. How can I do Bright Line Eating and do it well, but not make it like, I don't know, about all about me? Do it so that it's just food, and then go and do your life. Do life, you know?
And it is hard. It's hard. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to interview you, Connie, because there are so many people that struggle with this. One of the number one questions that I get asked a lot is, how do you do this with a family? And while you're an empty nester right now, you had all those missionaries, and a lot of people in your phase of life, even without doing a mission, struggle with, because when you're a grandma, you're hosting your grandchildren and your adult children for big things, and you're making the food for them, and a lot of times that is your love language. That's how you raised your family, and so it's kind of weird to just break away from that. And so you're around the NMF because you don't know how to do it differently, and also to tell your family like, well, I got to take care of me, sorry, you guys figure something out, like, that can feel selfish, and kids are like, well, why doesn't mom want to take care of us? Like, there can be a lot of backlash with that. And but and I'll let you speak to that in a second. I just wanted to point out though that one thing when you were telling your mission story and everything is, if we follow the Spirit, um it'll be okay, right? Like, Our time will come. And maybe when we're overwhelmed with lots of things in our life, that's not the time right there. And it doesn't mean like give up or whatever. It just means it will come, especially if you tell the Lord you want it. You really want it. He will make sure it happens when it is right. And when you are struggling with your eating, there's lots of things you're learning along the way that help you be stronger when you're ready to come back. And one of what you did, reach out. You got a guide, and that's what we need to do. And it sounds like Margaret, thank you for giving her so many shout outs because she's an amazing guide and she's there for you. And I'd also love to hear like some of the things that she helped you with to get you back on track. So I guess I've said a lot of things. So from whatever I've said, you can take it from there. And
There's one
anyway.
thing I want to say, and I think one of the reasons that I got the answer I did when I prayed about wanting to be more tight with my Bright Line Eating program was that I was in a healthy body still. I think if I was really overweight, I might have had a different answer. If I was unhealthy, I mean, yes, the mission was really important, but we we were very active on the mission. We were serving, we were building fences, we were chopping wood, we were hauling wood, we were, so many things that gave me a lot of exercise and kept my body strong. But I knew that what that peace of mind could bring too by really having my food in line, and I missed that. But anyway, I just didn't want it to be put out there that the Lord is going to say put food last because this is my will. It was just for me at that time because of all the other circumstances. I think, yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Um, so with everything that I just said, how about would you like to tell us how you do your program as a grandma? And I know you it was a little challenging, you mentioned when you were a mission mom, but how did you do that? How are you able, because Connie, I think you just said this, like you were pretty healthy anyway. So you could be an example to us of how you do take care of yourself and yet you know, take care of everybody else? How do you make sure that you're healthy when you have so many other people to take care of?
Um, I've got a couple of things I want to say there with both my own family. This morning is a good example. My little guy Benjamin woke up early before I got to exercise. I love to exercise early first thing, or I just don't feel like my day is right. Anyway, he was up, and so we put on the music and we danced. And I was really, really getting into it to try to get the same kind of workout that I might have. And so you have to kind of adjust that way. Um, on the mission, I was weighing my food continually, and I had missionaries say, "Are you going to eat all that?" And I mean, we had really good relationship, and I would say, "Yeah, I am, and I'm not going to go back for seconds and thirds and fourths like you are." So anyway, we had fun, but I had a couple of missionaries. I'm going to say 4 missionaries who were very, very interested in what I was eating and um, loved some of the Bright Line Eating food, which kind of became a problem because I would measure my own and then, well, okay, have a taste,
Mm,
how we do that. But anyway, I had one little missionary lose like 40, 50 pounds while she was a missionary. And it was so fun to be able to influence that way and have them just call me about nutritional things too. So the example that we give is really important. And I think it's okay. Jenny and I were talking about how my husband has always seen me measure my food and weigh my food, but he doesn't really understand the program because I didn't have a lot of weight to lose. So in a way, I think you guys who have had all this weight to lose and your spouse or your family has seen you transform, they understand why you are weighing and measuring your food. It's really hard for people to understand this brain thing that happens, this peace that happens when we just tell ourselves, this is what I'm getting, and that's all I'm getting. And
mhm.
so it was important to me to have my scale is right here on my counter to do it, and I get teased about it, but um, it's important. It's important to do that. And as far as, feeding others, I got to the point where I fed them first, but on the times where I had a day where I could plan ahead, that's what I would say do with families, with a lot of children, with whatever. Plan your meals and then add whatever to theirs, that a grain or whatever you're going to feed them extra. And I did that a lot with the missionaries, but so many times I had spur of the moment 6, 7 missionaries pop in. So I had a lot of freezer things that I would never feed myself, that would just fix it quick.
Yeah. I love how you talked about so many things there, but you were an example to these missionaries. Um, you were probably an answer to prayer for a lot of them. My daughter is starting her mission on Monday, and um, I hate this is recording, but I'll say this: she's plus size, she's overweight, and she is very nervous about gaining more weight on her mission because that's very typical of missionaries. I think even in service missions, because they just get fed so much, and what they eat isn't, always in their control, and it's also just not a priority to worry about food and their weight that much. But I think having a mission mom like you, Connie, is such a blessing to help some of these missionaries that are really looking for that. And I have just noticed in my own family, just me taking care of myself has affected my family in the way that they now have seen my example and want to, be more healthy eaters. I haven't made them do that. They've just kind of done that on their own. And so I do think that if you put yourself first in your health first, your family does follow. Um, and then something else you said, and I guess really I think I see Margaret. She turned on her camera. And so I just want to talk about Margaret. What did she like? What kind of things did she help you do, Connie, if you don't mind sharing?
She listened. I mean, we would have a weekly call and she listened. She would spin off of what I said and asked or give advice or tell me experiences she'd been through that were similar. Um, I don't know that it's any magic pill. It's just being there and listening and caring.
You described a friend. That's what a
Yeah,
guide is, right?
yeah.
And it also makes me think of the ministering program in the church. It's just another way to minister and to help each other. Um, hey, Margaret, if you want to unmute yourself for a second and talk to us maybe about your side of the story and things that you maybe remember doing with Connie and helping her. I don't know. Would you mind? You're
She can't
muted.
unmute herself. She probably,
You can't. Connie, what's your face? Beth, can you unmute her? Sorry.
what's your face?
Anyway, there you go. You're unmuted.
Okay. Okay. It's just exactly what Connie said. I was just a friend, and what you said. Uh, I can't remember the stories that I told her, if they were very many at all. But the thing is just being there. I'm not sure if I mentioned getting a blessing. Did I mention that, Connie?
You asked
Okay.
me the blessing, yep. That was one of the
Okay.
first things she asked me to do, and I did.
I love
That's
that.
the first thing I usually ask people when we guide, and I put her name on the prayer roll and let her know that I was going to do that. That's what I usually do with everyone. But just being there, being a friend, and I feel honored to be able to guide people. They think that I'm helping them. No, they're helping me, and it's just a higher level of ministry.
Yeah. Higher and holier ways, President Nelson would say. Thank you for saying that. I
Exactly.
I love that you brought the Lord in there. That was really good for me to hear. Were there specific things that you did differently with your food, with your brightly needing program when you started working with Margaret, Connie?
No, I just talked to her a little bit about where I was, I wanted to get a little bit of weight off, and I was trying to decide whether, I think I'd gained 5 pounds. I wanted to, trying to decide whether to get rid of some ads. We just kind of bounced things off of each other and out, and I didn't take anything out. This is something I really want to say. I've got an older body now, and I'm used to, as a younger person, being able to clean up something in a week. Like if I wanted to lose 5 pounds, I could have it off in a week to a couple weeks. That doesn't happen anymore. And it's also diet mentality to lose it that quickly. And with bright line eating, I had to adjust my brain, especially in my older years, to just say, settle in and take care of the brain, and the body will take care of itself. And it's actually taken, it took maybe 2 to 3 months to really feel good again. And I'm feeling that. So,
I love what you said. Yeah, we saw your little grandson and your husband in the background for a second, but I love what you said about settle in and take care of the brain and the body will take care of itself. You know what that makes me think of? President Nelson gave a talk at BYU, um, probably 2018 maybe, and he was talking about laws and how if we abide by certain laws, well every law has a everything has a law. And so if and he talked about when he developed that heart lung machine and he learned that the heart had to, had to had this law, and if things went the right way, then the heart would react accordingly. And I remember hearing that was kind of near the beginning of my bright line eating journey and thinking, wait, if I eat right, my body will react accordingly because that's the law of it. And so that's exactly what you were saying. Like if we're just focusing on what on the recovery on the brain, we will be eating right and the body will react. Maybe our body won't be like the size we think it should be, but it will be the size it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? And it we will be healthy and will be our highest self, as Susan Pierce Thompson says, and really the person that God created us to be, I think. So, um, and Connie, I also just wanted to touch on the fact that because you kind of mentioned this a few times, you did have some weight you wanted to lose when you started Bright Line Eating, and also when you resumed a little bit of weight, but you're really not here for the weight. You've just been here for the peace, and you talked about um, having a little bit of a history with an eating disorder and things like that, and how Bright Line Eating's helped you with all of that. And I am so glad that you're here talking with us because there are a lot of people who have a similar story to yours, but they're quieter in our community. Um, because like you've said, like maybe you don't have as many strong before and after pictures to show, or it's not so much about the weight. It's not like you'd said, if it was about the weight, maybe the story might be a little bit different. um, but your story needs to be told, and I've heard of other people who have similar stories to you that kind of feel a little left out a little bit in the community. They've wondered how much of it's for them. And so I just want to tell everybody that if you are like that, that you're not alone. And Connie, is there any more that you want to share about that piece and that part of your journey?
yeah, I think I just had someone talk to me about this the other day. They're in a similar situation where they didn't have a lot to lose, but the piece is so important, the brain piece. And I think she actually mentioned, when we go to conferences and we have X amount of weight lost on the videos, or and that's when we're kind of like, I'm not that special. What do I do? I don't need to be in the video. But let me tell you what I realized. I have probably lost 300 pounds. Really, whether it's 5 to 10 pounds at a time, that same 5 to 10 pounds over and over and over. I didn't let it get way out of hand, but it was that same 5 to 10 pounds over and over and over. And I was thinking, first I thought, I've probably lost 100. Are you kidding me? That's only 10 diets.
Mhm.
No, I've done way more than that. And so when I really found peace in Bright Line Eating, it's not that up and down all the time. It's not that, oh, I got to my goal and now I can eat whatever I want and then back up you go. And it's just that gliding in, that landing the plane and staying there that is so fantastic. And sometimes you go a little bit lower because you're just living life and you forget about food. I'm thinking, what has happened to me? I have really forgotten about food and it's just stayed off and it's felt so good and yeah, amazing. That's what I would somehow try to how important that is. It doesn't matter how much the before and afters that are so remarkable. I love seeing those, by the way. I absolutely love them. But somehow we do need to recognize those who have lost that much weight just over and over and over and over and have lost so much brain chatter, food chatter.
Because you know what? That's actually, I think, the case for anybody who's gotten to the point where they really have found that freedom. Even people like me who lost a lot of weight, and you can see that physically, but really more so it's the brain chatter. That's how I'm able to keep it off too, because I don't have that brain chatter anymore. And everything you're saying, like just the, oh, I'm not thinking about food, like that's the miracle. And I will say that for me, as somebody who did spend a lot of my life in an overweight body, it was hard for me to look at people who I hadn't really, as far as I knew, hadn't really ever been overweight to think, what? You're not like me. And I learned through Bright Line Eating, through meeting people like you, Connie, but not even sometimes not even people that have done Bright Line Eating, just talking to other people. I have learned that, oh, you are like me. It's the same thing, just manifesting itself differently. But we really have been dealing with the same thing. And
Right.
then that's helped me to understand people better, maybe not be so judgmental or you know, self-conscious, all those kind of, those are all different ways of pride, but feel more of a kinship towards people, um, and know that we can help each other and just help me feel more compassion about people because I think there's so many of us that are struggling, um, you know, with food, um, and eating behaviors, that we don't even know about because sometimes we're just in our own world. And so there's so many people that need to hear this. And I feel like Bright Line Eating is so closely connected with the gospel of Jesus Christ. There's so many things. Our recovery journeys are like we can't do it without the Savior. And I feel like sometimes God puts people in our path to lead people to the gospel. Like that's been some of the stories with some people in this group that have found the gospel through Bright Line Eating. But I I mean, one of the ways that's going to happen is for us to open our mouths and share our stories, just like we would share the gospel. Um, so you're, thank you for sharing that. And I want you to know, I felt the spirit as you were saying that I just feel like a lot of people needed to hear what you said, Connie. And I am so excited that you're going to be in charge of the conference because I think that you are going to make sure, I don't know how you're going to do it, but you're going to make sure people are recognized in their own way, you know? I think so, and I'll be honest, I think sometimes when we do show those pictures, it can sometimes not that I mean, I love them too. I'm not saying it's totally bad, but it can kind of send the wrong message that we're all about that physical transformation when it's actually so much more than that. You know, that's not what it's about, really. So,
Maybe we should say, how much sanity did you gain? How
that's
much,
so hard to
how
measure
much
though,
did you
right?
gain?
I
Right.
know, I know. But anyway, and I also love that you have you're like one of the Bright Line Eating pioneers, right? From the pretty much the beginning. You rarely hear of people that were around even in 2016. And I don't know if I mean, I think there were people that were around in like 2014. I hear like, right? Is
I
that
think
when it kind of started?
2015 was the
20,
first.
okay. Were you, do you know which boot camp you were a part of? Were you one of the first ones?
It was October. It wasn't the first. I think there were maybe two before me or three. I'm not sure actually.
And
There was no book. There was no book at that time. It
you
came
were
out,
even before the book.
yeah, it came out the following January or February. So,
And what I think is so amazing, and talking about just dieting history and all those things, you're still here, Connie. That was 8 years ago, and you are still here.
so let me tell you something about that. After I spent that $1,000 on boot camp and they try to get you in Bright Lifers, I was like, heck no. I've got this, I'm not spending more money, no way, no how. And I tried doing it on my own and I did. I mean, not like I am now, but I did it on my own. I stayed with it. And then um, I ended up being part of a group who on Facebook when they had all these different groups. There was one group who was saying, who wants to do the 100-day chart, the coloring chart and support each other. And I did it and we got in this group and Marco Polo. And there was one gal in there, only one, who was a Bright Lifer. And I remember so strongly in the very beginning, she said, it's just not an option. And I'm like, that is my mantra. It's just not an option. And then every once in a while, she would say different things that she would learn from a Bright Lifers call or a whatever. And I'm like, that kind of sounds cool. This thing she's in, that kind of sounds cool. Then I started hearing about Gideon games, and that kind of sounds cool. And I didn't realize there were unofficial Gideon games teams at that time. But anyway, it was her, and she ended up leaving our lame little group because none of us were Bright Lifers, and I think that we didn't know what we were talking about. But anyway, I did end up. I know that when they first did their spiel after boot camp about you'll never see this price again, and it was 400 and something. I can't remember. Anyway, it was probably 2 years later, a year later, I'm not sure. 2 years later, I wrote in and said, hey, I gave you $1,000 for boot camp. It's not that much anymore. It's half that much now. And how about giving me that deal that you to be a Bright Lifer? And they did.
Oh. How long have you been at Bright Life for then? Do you know?
um, oh gosh, let's see. I'm going to say 3 years.
Hmm.
I
So
think.
for those listening that don't know what we mean when we're saying Bright Lifers, that's the membership basically with the official Brightly Eating program. And so you do boot camp first, and then Susan Pierce Thompson gives you an invitation to join Bright Lifers, and yeah, you have to pay for it. But I think it's totally worth the price, and so do you. Um, you can have a lot of the same benefits without paying the membership. A lot of to me, one of the biggest things is community, and we have that here. Um, but but I will say, and Connie and I have both noticed this, we've talked about it. Um, there is a deeper level with people who pay for the membership, honestly. There in Bright Lifers. It's just this deeper level of commitment. And you were saying that lady, what was she saying? No, what was the little
It's just
mantra?
not an option. So any food thought that comes in, if it's not mealtime or if it's NMF or it's whatever, should just say it's not an option. It just was not in her brain that it was an option. And I loved that. Instead of playing with these thoughts and letting them percolate or whatever, I just no, it's just not an option.
Option. That's really good. Yeah, just don't give your brain the opportunity. Susan did a vlog on that, I feel like a year or so, few years back, about not having those options.
Yeah.
That's one reason why I think Brightly Eating really does work, is because it narrows the options down in your brain, and it's super simple. And it's not just, well, should I do this? Should I do that? But if you're giving your brain those loopholes or whatever, then you're going to go crazy.
Yeah.
So just don't do that. Anyway, we should probably wrap it up pretty soon, but I just and I'll open it up for people watching to ask comments in just a minute. But just really quick, Connie, before we do that, I know that you're a whole foods plant-based eater, right?
Yeah.
Have you always been like what got you doing that?
Uh, so my niece, um, I have two nieces who are whole food plant-based eaters, and I was having knee problems. I've had 7 knee surgeries, two two replacements eventually, and one redone, and they wanted to redo the other one, and I was just like, oh my gosh, something is wrong with my body. But um, she said to me, both of them said to me, you need to just try this. I've had knee problems, I've had back pain, so that's what got me into being a whole food plant-based eater. They had me read the book How Not to Die.
Not to die,
How
D-I-E.
Not to Die, DIE. And from there I just thought, I'm going to give it a try. And I can't tell you how amazing my knees have been since.
How long have you been whole foods plant-based?
3 years.
Okay. Yeah, so that might be a question people might want to ask you more on that. I don't know. I know that a lot of people, are curious about that. I feel like I'm not food plant-based. I don't know if I ever will be, to be honest, but I do feel like we kind of evolved to that point, so I won't be surprised if I do down the road. But anyway, that's just something that I just wanted to throw out there.
And I
It,
will say that I do eat the occasional meat. I mean, to me, I take very literally eat meat sparingly. I'm talking very literally because some people think sparingly means something way different than I do. But I also read something in, well, maybe I won't go down that road, in the scriptures where it talks about, to me, that you might need a little bit. But anyway, I would, if somebody else feeds me and they're having meat, I'm going to eat it, that kind of a thing, but I'm not going to make it necessarily for myself. So
do you eat um like eggs and dairy products?
I went a long time without, but I have recently and I haven't noticed problems. If I eat a lot of them, I do notice a problem. So I just kind of sparingly. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to bring up before I open it up for other people to ask questions?
Um, Not that I can think of.
All right. If you think of something, we'll just go back to that. But we have about, I don't know, less than around 5 minutes, Beth, would you say? We'll end around 5 o'clock. So if anybody has questions, just go ahead and raise your hand or unmute yourself and chime in. Beth, if you wouldn't mind kind of watching that chat or people raising their hands because you're the host, just because I don't know if I'll catch it. But yeah,
Yep,
go ahead and
I got it.
let us know.
Anybody who raises their hand, I should see.
Okay.
Any questions?
Beth, do you have questions for Connie? Since you're
Oh,
talking.
Connie is so fascinating. Let's see here. Lots of really good things. Can you, well, and I know you told us a little bit, but will you share with us your testimony of being a service mission? Like it is just incredible. I would love to hear that again. I've heard it before.
I would love to say something about that. When my son was looking at a mission and they didn't know if he would be able to do proselyting. I mean, some were like, yeah, there's no problem. And I thought, oh, he's got to go. He's got to go away from the house. He's got to be able to grow. He's got to. Um, I needed the testimony of what a service mission could do for people. And I'm really grateful that he got to do a service mission because it was so perfect for his personality. So perfect. But most of our missionaries in the beginning, we probably got a missionary a month, and most of them were transfer missionaries from a proselyting mission for health reasons, for mental, anxiety, for whatever they transferred, and to help them feel like this is a real mission took a little bit at first. And so that's why we would take them to speak to the other wards and have them bear their testimony. And they would say, oh my gosh, this mission saved my life. For instance, there was one young man who, they start to lose their testimony when they are struggling so much with health issues, or they're thinking, why would God do this to me? And this particular young man was very depressed, and he came home during COVID, and the temples were closed, and we were trying to find the best service. A lot of what these missionaries do are serving in the temple at least once a week, sometimes more than that, but it's their favorite thing to do, be an ordinance worker. And this young man was asked to help the temple engineer, and he was there every single day in the temple as long as it was open. I mean, from 8 a.m. to whatever. And he would bear testimony that the Lord knew exactly where he needed to be, because he was in his refuge where he could feel peace, and he couldn't feel it out on his proselyting mission. He was I don't know, he just needed God to tell him, I know you and I love you. And we saw that time and time again with these missionaries. My testimony grew so much of service, and I thought, this is my kind of mission too. I'm a doer, I'm a goer, I'm a server, I'm a helper, I'm a and God knew that, and he put me in charge of these kids to help them feel how, oh my gosh, you can feel so good by serving other people. And I loved seeing that transformation, whether these kids were called directly to service because they had autism, or whether they transferred home because they had a bug in their stomach, or, they all were transformed by helping people. And it was so amazing. So amazing. Thanks, Beth, for that question.
Thanks for sharing that, Connie. Anybody else have a question? Jenny, I see you got a heart by your name, Jenny Mitchell. Does that mean you're just, I don't know, was that always there?
Yeah, she's loving what's being said.
Oh, she's loving, that's just a reaction. Okay.
If nobody else has another question, I have another one. I'm sorry to be a question hog. Or Margaret, did you have a question? It looks like you raised your hand. Yeah, Margaret does. Okay, let me unmute you, because I think I might have to ask you to unmute because I muted you. Let me double check here. Okay, try that.
Okay. I was wondering, when you said you went to whole plant based in your knees, what was the change in your knees? I mean, were they aching or infected, or what was it?
They
Just
were
curious.
very achy. So I went to bone on bone, and then they ended up doing the total knees, and then I had a lot of inflammation around those
Inflammation.
the new knees. And going whole food plant based really reduces inflammation for arthritis.
Okay, so just cutting out the meat then reduces the inflammation.
Yeah, so we know flour and sugar cause inflammation.
Right.
And
right.
I had gotten rid of those. I mean, like sugar, 12 years ago or so. And that made a big difference. And I've also suffered from headaches, which getting rid of that made a big difference. But I was amazed at what whole food can do for you with inflammation.
There's so much more I would want to know, and I probably will ask you sometime about your protein and how you get enough protein, because that is so somebody's asking, how do you go to plant-based foods? Melanie, what do you mean? Like,
well, you probably just don't even know what to do, because that's how I felt. Is that right, Melanie?
what are you going to eat if you don't have meat? That's what yeah.
What are you going to do? And thankfully I had my nieces who just gave me all kinds of ideas of protein sources. And then I had questions, because they went to soy, and I said, but if you have too much soy, that causes hormone problems. And then, and they said, here's the research on that. And you have to have bucket loads, to really have those problems. And so, yeah, there's a learning curve. And I would suggest getting with someone who is eating whole food plant-based if you want to do it so that you can get some ideas and don't feel like a failure right out of the gate. I had some good coaches.
Don't you think that it was similar to giving up sugar and flour though? Like a lot of,
Probably.
for me, I was like, what am I going to eat if I don't eat sugar and
Oh,
flour?
I
And
used to
then
have bread at
everything,
every meal, every single meal, you know.
yeah. But then
So
once you just let that world open, you see, oh, there's all this food that I had wasn't eating at all because all I was eating was sugar and flour, you know. So yeah. What were you gonna say, Beth? Oh, there's
Oh,
your
this
little
is a
guy.
little bit of a
Hi,
test.
Benjamin.
Oh, hello there, Benjamin.
Hi.
No, that's actually no, that's Benjamin. That's the older
yeah,
brother.
it is. It's Benjamin.
Okay, here's my question. Let's see how fast. In 30 seconds or less, can you tell us 10 different proteins that you regularly eat?
I don't
Whole
know
plant
about
based.
10, but beans are big.
Okay.
Hummus, um, seeds are a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Falafel is made from garbanzo
Chickpeas.
beans.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Let me think. The the different varieties. So soy curls
Okay.
or textured vegetable protein that looks like hamburger, tastes like hamburger if you flavor it right. I put flavor. That's a soy-based product as well. And those are kind of processed, so I don't do them a lot. Go find Grandpa.
Yeah.
Um, I would
Oh,
say,
Lorraine says I love lentils. That's another one
yeah, lentils.
you
Oh my
probably eat.
gosh, you guys, you can make the best lentil crackers, or I'm gonna say bread, but basically it's just all lentils and seasonings, and that's a really, really good protein. So I love my food. I love it so much. Better than, I'm sorry, you guys.
That's okay. We should probably cut it off because it's been over an hour now anyway, and I bet your husband he's like, Connie, it's your turn now. But and Benjamin wants his grandma, so we'll end now. But that was so awesome, Connie. We love you. Thank you for taking this time to share your story, and so fun to get to know you. This will be posted. We'll post it in the group, the link to it on the YouTube channel, and so you guys can share it. And well, actually, I don't know how you share that, but anyway, we'll figure that out. But you can, watch it and come back to this a lot and reach out to Connie, guys, if you want to talk to her more. She's amazing. Well, look at me telling everybody to reach out to you, but I'm sure well, I think you're okay with that. But anyway,
Absolutely.
yeah, love you, Connie. Thank you, Beth, for helping us. All right,
Thanks so
everybody,
much.
have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.